our next guest on Rendezvous, who is Naftali Bennett. Now, he is a high-tech entrepreneur, but he's also a representative of the settler movement and believes that Israelis do have the right to settle on the West Bank. He was also a former chief of staff to the current Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, when he was in opposition. Naftali Bennett, welcome to Rendezvous.
Great to be here.
Now, you represent the settler movement. You believe passionately that Israelis on the West Bank have a right to stay in these settlements, which, of course, as you know, are not recognized in international circles at all. Do you not see that not only as an obstacle to peace, but actually a huge cost to the Israelis?
Quite the contrary. Living in Greater Israel, and let's just put things in proportion, all of Israel is 1/300th the size of the United States. All of the land of Israel is a tiny, tiny state, which is sort of a little island in an ocean of Islamic and Arab nations. So whoever talks about severing it is taking this little crumb and cutting it into two, which is unacceptable. Not only is it not an obstacle, it's the only assurance for our stability here in this region in the long term. The one assurance for stability and peace in this region, there's only one thing, and it's a very strong Israel, which is untouchable.
I accept.
Anything less than that, any agreements we have on paper are meaningless. They'll just tear it up. The moment they see an opportunity to wipe out the Jewish state, it will happen. And this is something that we Westerners, it's hard for us to fathom, that it's a matter of strength and power and not showing weakness. I just want to be very clear. If, God forbid, we go along Tzipi's vision of founding a Palestinian state in those mountains just right over here, it would mean that my children would be under day-to-day mortar fire. And that's something I'm not willing to accept, not now and not 100 years from now.
Since we are talking about security, the idea of settlements was about the rights of the Jewish people. It was not about security. Israel is strong enough, and the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli army is strong enough if there's a need to act in terms of security. Now, Israel now is being isolated because the settlement activity. There are in the world those understanding that maybe it's problematic to achieve peace, but they cannot understand how we can continue on these settlements activity. And this shadows and affects the relations of Israel with the entire international community. And from the economic point of view, it's a small village.
Right.
And Israel is part of this small village.
Sure.
And we are this impact on the relations between Israel and the international community because of these settlements activities, that you don't have the support of all the Israelis on this. It cuts the Israel society as well. I mean, there's a price that we pay.
The isolation you're talking about is, I think, magnified, and it's nothing near what you're suggesting. But the main reason is we don't say the simple thing, Tzipi. This land is ours. We've not occupied.
Naftali.
The people that we call here settlers are living in our own homeland.
Naftali.
You can't be a settler in your own homeland.
I want to ask you also, Naftali, because you are thinking of going into politics here in terms of the sort of national religious parties. And I want to ask you about the Haredim, that 10% of Israeli population who are Orthodox, and as you know, ultra-Orthodox, and the men spend a great deal of their time praying and so on, and don't work in the economy. Their numbers are expected to double in the next 20, 30 years or so. You're going to be losing a huge part of potential economic activity for Israeli society. I mean, that's not something that's sustainable, and people even talk about a civil war between the ultra-Orthodox and the secularists.
First of all, I'm way more optimistic. I have a very positive view of what's going to happen in Israel over the next 20 years. We're going to become the startup nation of the world.
We are.
And it's happening. I served in that area for many years. Regarding the Haredim, first of all, they are our brothers. I've been serving in reserves for 20 years, and so I certainly want to see them part of the army service.
And they don't go into the army at the moment, which is a cause of great resentment for many other Israelis.
Actually, there's a very positive trend starting, a gradual trend of bringing them into the Israeli society. It's already happening. What we have to do is encourage that very positive trend, not attack them, not put them into a corner, because they are our brothers and sisters. but we do have to incentivize them gradually to join the Israeli society.
You accept there's a problem because at the moment they have kind of opted out and they form the disproportionate number of the poor in
don't
Israel.
disagree.
And
there's
Israel,
two poor poverty pockets in Israel. It's the Haredim and it's the Israeli Arabs. That's right.
Israeli Arabs.
I believe that we are now in a crossroads, and this is the decision that Israeli politicians need to make without, covering up. The idea, Israel is a startup nation. I'm also optimistic. We contribute to the world. You can find, 10 Nobel Prizes. And
we're going to have one of those in a moment.
Okay, great. But yet, Israel can be, and hopefully it's not going to be, isolated and very religious state. Now, what my expectations also from Naftali and his friends is to work together in order to have the ultra-Orthodox as part of Israel's society, but unfortunately from a political perspective, their political partners, or the political partners in Israel, are right-wing, extreme right-wing, and ultra-Orthodox. And all of us, the Israeli society, basically pay the price for this.
Israel, yes, of course, is a very high-tech society. I think after the United States and China is just overtaking you, you've more high-tech companies listed on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange.
Silicon Wadi just
Silicon Wadi,
5 kilometers from here,
which outside Silicon Valley in California is supposed to be, the place to be.
I have a company that today there's 400 employees. We're protecting most of the online banking transactions in the world. Lloyd's, TSB, and Barclays are customers, so any of your viewers who bank there, we protect them. So
you set up this kind of anti-fraud software company.
That's correct. We make sure that when you log into your bank, it's really Zainab and not someone who stole your username and password.
It's me.
I think Israel has the potential to be the capital of the world of entrepreneurship, to export entrepreneurship. That's what we're very good at because, at the age of 22, I was a company commander in a special commando unit. You don't have that opportunity in most countries in the world. So it ingrains audacity, innovativeness, and all of that helps us become the startup nation. I think we can export this to the world, and we are.
But can you without peace, though? Can you without peace?
The answer is a resounding yes. It is happening. Look, we don't have peace now, unfortunately, for almost, what would it be, 65 years. Yet we are the biggest exporter of water technologies. Yeah. And so I don't think that we can take the Palestinian-Israeli issue and turn ourselves into hostages. And I'll say one last sentence. This conflict, unfortunately, I don't think is solvable in the Western sense, a clear-cut solution. However, we all have to learn how to live with the conflict, even if we can't solve it.
I'm sure that there is.
I would like to solve the conflict. I think that this is the interest of Israel, and I want to agree with Naftali. Israel is a startup nation, basically, maybe because of the difficulties that we faced during these years. So we need to invent things, water irrigation and everything. But I want the world to stop looking at Israel not as a startup nation, but through the lenses, sometimes the distorted lenses of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
So stop talking about it all day, Tzipi. Let's go and talk about the important issues.
It's not about
you keep on talking about isolation and settlements. Let's talk about the beautiful Jaffa we have here. Let's talk about the startup nation. I think we're to blame,
You know something? It's not what we talk about. It's about realities. And we need to face reality and to solve it.
Final question to all of you. Would there be a peace dividend from which Israel could accomplish even more than what it's achieved already? Naftali?
Your viewers right now, many of them have, unfortunately, Israeli stents in their hearts. Many of them are holding a mobile phone with an Israeli chip and computers with their chips. Many are eating fruit that were irrigated with Israeli technologies. Israel is a wonderful nation with a very, very powerful future. And yes, we have right now a conflict that's not been solved. We and our neighbors, the Palestinians, have to live together, and we are living together. It's imperfect, but let's not lose the big picture. This is a miracle nation, a startup nation, and we want to shed light upon the nation.